Hey there, all things MSP fans. We are back here with another vendor update. Now, these vendor updates are really meant to give you a look into these vendors that you may not have a chance to every day, and also condense it down into a 10, maybe 15-minute long session so it's easily digestible as well, in case this is a vendor that you've heard about and wanted to look into a little bit more, or you just want to hear what's new from these certain vendors, maybe if you're already one of their partners. So today we have Nodeware, and so let me go ahead and bring up my two guests today from Nodeware. Hey, Matt. Hey, Frank. How are you?
Good, Eric. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. You guys are no strangers to all things MSP, of course. You guys have been on a couple of times. I know I've done a live stream with Matt. We've done a couple of things. We did a podcast with you, Frank. Yep. And these are meant to be kind of just an update for the All Things MSP crew. And one of the parts of that, though, is telling people who you are and what Nodeware is about. So, Frank, I'll let you go first. If you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself and then talk a little bit about Nodeware.
You're calling me older? Is that why you're giving me first?
It's between you and me, buddy.
Answer. Hi, everybody. Frank Raimondi. I'm VP Channel Alliances and Partnerships for Nodeware, and been in technology for way too long. No, maybe not way too long, but a very long time, mostly on the hardware side, really now enjoying the software and services world of MSP land. So happy to be on.
All right, Matt.
Hey, everyone. My name is Matthew Koenig. I'm the VP of Channel Sales with Nodeware. I've been doing this, way too long, and work for a bunch of companies. Love what I do. Love taking care of my MSP brothers and sisters. And Nodeware is a lot of fun because of some of the cool things it does.
Awesome. Now, one of the things, and by the way, Frank, I am going to age us both because I think a little congratulations are in order because Frank is also the chair of the member champions at GTIA. And so congratulations, Frank, on that.
Thank you.
And I look forward to being voluntold many things this coming year.
You're on the list, baby. Got you coming.
So I know that you guys, big in the security world. And when you're talking to lots of partners, you really are talking sometimes generically about the things that they need in their cybersecurity stack, not just Nodeware, but of course, Nodeware can be a very important component to that. So what are kind of those three security pillars that you guys talk about?
So there are three things that I don't care what software you use. You could use Nodeware, you could use not Nodeware, it doesn't matter. There are three pieces of your security stack that you must have. So everybody talks about boom, right? Boom being a breach that happens or an incident that happens. So you've got right of boom, which everybody talks about, and you got left of boom. We created the security pyramid. And if you'll visualize this with me, you've got a pyramid. On the left lower hand side, you've got proactive. That's left of boom. That's MFA. That's security awareness training. That's vulnerability management. All the things you can do to preemptively make someone secure ahead of time. The top of the triangle is testing. It's still left of boom. Because what you're trying to do is say, is the proactive stuff working? Is what I'm doing over here actually cleaning up the mess that I have to make sure that if anything ever happens, we're good? And those are things like pen testing, the recovery part of backup and recovery, things of that nature. Then to the right of boom, you've got reactive. Because I don't care how good you are, I don't care how good we are, I don't care how good your tools are, something's going to make it through, and you need something that's going to go, nope, you ain't getting through here. So those three components are absolutely critical. And what we found throughout the channel is a lot of MSP owners, not on purpose, but forget about the proactive side, or not from, again, an on purpose or damaging side, but forget about the proactive side, right? Because it's stuff that they get pushed back on and stuff. But if you're not doing proactive, then your reactive is on overdrive. And the way I always liken it to is if I hit something enough times, it will break. I want to make sure I don't give them the chance. Let me take away their hammer from hitting it.
Yeah. So let me add a little bit to that, Eric, if you don't mind. So
Sure.
again, Matthew sort of talked about the elements of that proactive corner, if you will, and that there's a lot of these elements have been around or been required maybe as a checklist item, right? They needed MFA, just got MFA, and then they were good for proactive, right? Or maybe they launched into an email security program and thought, oh, okay, that was fine. The latest sort of conversion, if you will, into the regularity of this proactiveness. I'll see if those words make sense, but the regularity is on vulnerability, right? Particularly, right? There in the past there was an assessment that was required. Check the box. I did an assessment once a year. I knew what my inventory was. I knew what my risks were, and whether I did anything with them or not. You know what? Yeah, I'm too small. Nobody's going to care. But at least I did this assessment. And so what we're seeing in the movement, whether it's in Australia with Essential 8 or NIST or HIPAA or FINRA or any of the FTC safeguards, is an ongoing management, right? Or an ongoing continuous look at your assets, at your inventory, right? The fingerprint, knowing what they are and knowing how risky they are. And that's where, bringing in product into a bit of this is Nodeware is doing that continuous, daily identification of assets and the scanning of them, and then the reporting on that. And so, Matthew, you can tell about what we've done, what we've added to help that, and what we've got coming forward.
Sure. And to Frank's point, for instance, CIS 8.3, I believe, is the latest version. It literally states continuous. The word is in there now. So it's real hard for you to just check a box anymore because you're having to constantly keep this up to date, keep this information up to date. It's becoming harder and harder to meet a lot of these compliance frameworks by checking a box. So kind of cool for us. I know it's hard for an MSP, and I get that. So Nodeware, for those of you that don't know, is a continuous vulnerability scanning platform. Quick version, runs 7x24 in the background with no network degradation. All your information is never more than 24 hours old. It does a full asset inventory identification, right down to the Roomba vacuum you have running in your office, multi-tenant dashboard. Exactly. And people have laughed like heck when it's come back. I'm like, I told you if it blips for a second, we're bringing it back. Should know what you don't know, right? You're able to eliminate IPs and IP ranges that you don't want to deal with. As I said, multi-tenant dashboard, dig down on each customer. You're going to see all the assets. You're going to then dig down on those and see all the vulnerabilities. We're going to rank them, and we're going to give you remediation guidance. So the link to the solution so you don't have to do a lot of research in any way, shape, or form. That's a high level. Now, what's new? Well, the first thing is at the end of 2024, we introduced patch management. So now from the system, Windows only to begin with. We're adding third party right now, and we'll be adding Mac and Linux coming up. You're going to be able to patch directly from the platform without having to go to somewhere else. Now, a couple cool things that separate us. One, if you continue to use your RMM, no problem. You don't have to use it. It will populate, but you don't have to tell it to do anything. But there are a couple cool things. First of all, we're going to show in a report what the latest available update for that asset is and what the currently installed update for that asset is. So a lot of times I've heard through the grapevine that some RMMs miss stuff and then don't apply stuff properly. You're going to have a secondary report you can go to very quickly and look and see what took place and what didn't take place. The next thing is we're hooked directly into the Microsoft database. There's no WinGet. There's no going out and trying to find stuff. We're directly connected. Not saying it's going to be perfect, but it's hard to miss stuff when you're directly connected. A couple other features that are really cool. First of all, you check what you want. You can separate the assets by operating system. Go in. We always give you the last 2 updates. Pick the one you want. Set your boot or reboot time. Done. But what's really cool about this is it goes and it does its thing and it's setting in reboot, waiting for reboot. One, if for some reason someone's online at 2:01 a.m. when you set the reboot, it's going to warn them. It's going to let them know, hey, lawyers, it's going to let them know, hey, we're going to reboot your system. You got 10 minutes. Back it up. Next thing, if you're like me and you're paranoid and you reboot your computer every day, it's smart enough to skip you. It's not going to reboot your computer again just because the admin said, hey, it's time to reboot and apply this update. But here are the two things that really are standout. One, we have agents, Microsoft Windows and Mac, as those of you that know the system know. Usually to get an update or reboot, you have to be online. You have to be attached for that to take place. Well, even if I go rogue and I am past the push and the reboot date, it doesn't matter. As soon as I log into the network or internet, should I say, done. Pushes it, takes care of it. Next thing, immediately upon reboot, it's going to scan for vulnerabilities and eliminate the ones that took care of. You don't have to wait 24 hours. You don't have to tell it to do it. Automatically going to do it and get rid of any vulnerabilities that are there. So within 24 hours, usually a lot sooner, we like to say 24 so nobody's disappointed, those vulnerabilities are going to be missing. Next thing, for 2025, we got a lot of feedback that said critical, high, medium, and low is great, right? CVSS scoring. But what about the EPSS scoring, which basically says, what's the likelihood of this being breached in the next 30 days? And what's the severity if this does get breached? Has it been used in ransomware? All that other kind of stuff. So we've now added in EPSS scoring that you can sort by vulnerability. So you can see this is at 97%, this is at 98, 10, 15. So what's cool about that is there could be highs and mediums that from an EPSS standpoint, because of what it touches and the likelihood of it being breached, are higher on that scale than criticals might be, which might be lower. So what we always tell people is it's a secondary check. You sort by EPSS. You take care of anything, well, should be 1%, but 10% or greater. Then go back and take care of all the criticals. So it gives people a true roadmap now on what they need to address first and most importantly, based on the information that's out there, and then gives them secondarily what they need to attack second. So it's been real helpful in helping people not get overwhelmed with the amount of vulnerabilities that come back. Because one of the things I hear all the time, and yes, I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second because anybody that knows me expects me to. We've had people tell us Nodeware brings back too much information. And it makes my head hurt. And here's why. We're a vulnerability management tool. If it brings back too much information, that means you have that many vulnerabilities that need to be patched. So are you telling me you'd rather not deal with that? Because I've literally had some MSPs, not a lot, but some MSPs go, it's too much, I'm not going to deal with it. I can't deal with it. I don't have the time to deal with it. And literally, I think one day my head must have exploded because my wife came running in asking what that popping sound was.
And part of that, I think, as well, becomes an admission that they haven't necessarily been doing all that they should have been doing, right? So sometimes that's a part of the, oh, well, I don't want to deal with that because that means I've done something wrong. So, it's a bigger dose of reality than some people want to see, maybe.
And the last thing that I'll introduce, and it's not with the software, but I think it's worth saying, usually I don't talk about partnerships or whatever because we have a lot of partnerships. But one in particular that we've just started is for the very thing I just said. When MSPs come back and say it's overwhelming, I have too much information, a lot of times they're like, I don't have time, I don't have the ability, I don't have the staff. So we've partnered with a company called Helped, not to give them a shout out specifically, but partnered with them. And what they're going to do is they're putting together a program that'll be in place in the next 10 days, I believe, where they will come in, they will fix all of that because they've been trained on Nodeware, know how to use it, know all the intricacies. They will fix all of that. And then they will either hand it back to you clean, or they will continue to do that for you. They've got specialization all over the place to do that kind of stuff. So we've partnered with them to say, Mr. MSP, I get that it's overwhelming. I get that it's a lot to take in, but these have to be resolved. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to keep your customers safe. So basically what we're doing is we're giving the ability for those people to have it taken care of for them.
Or else you get sick as dogs on you.
Oh.
So the other, so Eric, I don't know if the other questions, but that's kind of where we're going, kind of leaning a little deeper into that kind of activity. Matthew mentioned, third-party application patching is coming very soon. The Linux and Mac devices as well. So we've got a good, strong roadmap. We've got some other kind of cool key features. The word that everybody's got to use of AI, and we've already had a lot of smart activities with the way that we evaluate and score things. And there's some good smart learning back behind that, and we'll continue to add elements there. Just from that partnership world, right? We do work because we're very focused on vulnerability management. We're not trying to add GRC tools or other elements in there. We're trying to keep very cool, but then we partner with the folks that really do know that, right? So compliance scorecard, VSAIL toolbox, skill pads, control map, right? Those kind of companies, they're fully integrated with our data, so they can take it in and do what they need to do with it from their standpoint, put it in the right spots, put it in the right reports, and all that. So that's really a key focus for us, is to make it easy for the MSP to use the tools that do the best things that they need to do.
So you're really, approaching it from a best of breed standpoint. You guys are kind of staying in your lane and integrating with the people who can do the other parts of the job better, so that you can focus on the important part. And I think
we've had some MSPs come forward and say, you don't do this and you don't do that and you don't do that. And you know what? That's okay. We want to do what we do really, really, really well. Whereas there are some people out there that I know for a fact have put in a ton of features, but half of them don't work right. And we don't want to be that person. We're not Microsoft. We can't just throw crap out there and hope it works.
Right. Well, there's a couple of things that I want to point out that you guys brought up. Number one is that continuous monitoring and management rather than just ticking a box once a year. That's a huge change. And it really speaks to defensibility, because if that's what the frameworks are now asking for, you are not going to be able to defend what you did as an MSP if you don't have a tool in place that is doing continuous monitoring, because you can't have a technician do it every day. It's just too much time. But then the other thing that I wanted to say is that I think that patch management is a place where there is opportunity for disruption. I think that for a long time, the RMM tools in particular, it was a bolt-on, and what you saw was a lot of failure, not because the RMM tool doesn't work, but because they just didn't account for all the situations that are happening on the machine. And it sounds like you guys are applying a little more intelligence to that in terms of the scheduled reboots and all of those things. And then on the back end, kind of telling them what went wrong. If there was, a patch that didn't get installed, making sure that they know about it so they can remediate it. But then the other thing was that you brought up, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I could be wrong. I may have heard it wrong. But it sounds like after you guys deploy a patch, you're going back and updating maybe configuration settings that can now be set because of that new patch that covers a vulnerability that couldn't be covered before.
Not configuration settings. I want to make sure we don't use the wrong word. Configuration settings is something that LionGuard deals with and a couple of others, but it's eliminating any of those CVEs that are affecting that system, cleaning it out and making sure that it's as clean as possible. And if you think about it this way, think about you're cleaning your house. There's clothes all over, there's whatever. The house cleaner comes through, picks up all the clothes, throws them in the hamper, scrubs the floors, everything, and leaves you with a clean house again. It's not to say it's never going to get dirty, but thanks to that patch, everything is clean, everything is the way it's supposed to be, and you can move on with your day knowing that to that point it's safe. But to your point, that's why continuous is so important. You can look every morning and see any of those critical vulnerabilities or high EPSS score vulnerabilities are there. And a lot of times nowadays, those are required. And when I say required, suggested by the framework to be remediated within 24 hours. You can't do that with a monthly or quarterly scan.
Right.
Yeah. One other thing I'll just to go a little deeper on as well on the testing side, right, is there is penetration tests, but there's other kinds of proactive services that are coming down the line, such as third-party risk management, right? In the new NIST standard, that's a requirement of knowing your supply chain coming into your company, into your customers' companies, and going out, as well as just general risk assessments, right, from an outside perspective. And the other part of our company, the other sister company, IGI Cybersecurity, does do some of those programs. And if you want to go into those deeper sometime, Eric, would love to chat more on the services side, not just our own particular pieces, but just the general need of those services and where they could play into an MSP's daily life. Because it is becoming, we're seeing more and more MSPs that are, oh, you can do pen tests. And yeah, you know what, I'm getting more requests for them from my customers. And you don't want them to have to go out somewhere else. So we want to keep that within the MSP's business. And so we got ways to do that. We'd love to talk more about that.
Awesome. Yeah, we can talk about that in a future episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Frank, Matthew, thank you so much for joining me today. And we hope you guys have a great 2025 and just keep that work going to evangelize security in the MSP space.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Thanks again, Eric.